Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. This will be our last installment of Key Issue 3, which is why do industries face resource challenges? Alright, so we are looking at different types of pollution today, starting with air pollution. So pollution in general is more waste than air, water, and land can handle. In terms of air pollution, there's about 0.04% of the Earth's atmosphere that has trace gases. They're called trace gases because there's just a small trace of them. Like I said, 0.04%. It's 78% nitrogen, 21% oxygen, 1% argon, and then that 0.04 of trace gases. So trace gases are where we get into trouble, and these, if there's too much of them, can cause pollution. So this would be like carbon dioxide, neon, helium, methane, and there's several others where if that percentage gets too high, then these trace gases cause air pollution. And if we have a high percentage of these gases, then it can lead to property damage, it can lead to hazardous health conditions for humans and animals and vegetation. Most of this type of air pollution is caused by factories, power plants, and also cars that burn fossil fuels. All right, so looking at the scale of air pollution. So air pollution can occur on a global scale. This is like big picture air pollution. Looking at climate change and ozone damage. I know the whole climate change, global warming thing can be really political, so we'll just stick with facts, I guess. But between 1880 and 2014, the average temperature of the Earth's surface has increased by 1.6 degrees Fahrenheit. And so there are a team of UN scientists who said that this is because humans are burning fossil fuels. Whether it is or not, I don't know. But we've talked before about how when we burn fossil fuels like petroleum and natural gas and things like that, it can release carbon dioxide into the air, which deplete the ozone layer, and it allows the heat into the Earth's atmosphere but doesn't allow it to escape. So that's what they think is causing that increase in temperature. On a regional scale, so air pollution can damage a region's vegetation or water supply through acid deposition. And so acid deposition is just the accumulation of acid on Earth's surfaces. So this too comes through the burning of fossil fuels. This is the science part of this. I don't really understand the science behind this, and you don't have to for this course. But just know that when we burn fossil fuels, then sulfur oxides and nitrogen enter the earth, and this can cause acid precipitation. So basically there is rain, snow, or fog that have acid in it, and when it falls to the earth, then it can damage plants, it can damage lakes, it can kill fish, and things like that. If we have buildings or monuments that are made of limestone or marble, they will suffer corrosion when we have acid precipitation. And then on a local scale, air pollution mostly happens in cities. And there are three basic elements to urban air pollution. One is carbon monoxide. Sorry, somebody's coming into my house. You can hear that by the little house alarm there. The first type is carbon monoxide. And the danger there is if we breathe in carbon monoxide, then it can reduce the amount of oxygen in our blood, it can impair our vision, our level of alertness, and can even, if somebody has breathing problems like asthma or something like that, it can make it more difficult for people to breathe. And then there are hydrocarbons as well, and hydrocarbons and nitrogen oxides in the presence of sunlight can form a photochemical smog. And so this mostly results in respiratory problems like coughing and difficulty breathing. Your eyes can sting and turn red. And then a lot of times if you see like this haze over cities, that's from hydrocarbons. And then the third basic element of urban air pollution is particulates. And this includes dust and smoke particles. So if you're driving by and you see like smog or smoke coming out of a factory, this is mostly particulates. Also the exhaust off of a diesel truck. But these are examples of particulate emission, and these are all forms of pollution that impact our air quality. Okay, so this is looking at air pollution from 1880 to the year 2000. And UN scientists say that the reason why the carbon dioxide concentration is going up is because we are burning fossil fuels. All right, so looking at water pollution. So water pollution is a widespread problem as well, simply because it's just easy to throw waste into a river and then let it go on downstream, and then it's someone else's problem. And then a lot of times water actually can cause the decomposition of waste, and like it does it in a way that is environmentally friendly, but most of the time the amount of waste exceeds like a river or whatever's capacity to decompose waste. All right, so there are two types of water usage. One is non-consumptive water, and this is like when it's not consumed, basically. So water is used and then it is returned to nature as a liquid. Most industrial and municipal or city uses of water are considered non-consumptive because the wastewater is mostly released back into lakes and streams, and then it can be purified and reused. And then consumptive agriculture uses water and then it's gone, like it does not return, or you can't like purify it and reuse it because it evaporates. And so most agricultural uses are consumptive because the water is used to supply plants, and then it transpires, and you're not able to treat it or reuse it because it basically evaporates. All right, and then polluted water. Polluted water can hurt aquatic life. So it can kill fish, it can kill plants in the water. So this is obviously an issue as well. There are two sources of pollution. One is point source pollution and the other is non-point pollution. Basically the difference is with point source pollution, you know where it's coming from. So it comes from a specific location. Point source pollutants are usually smaller in quantity, and they're usually easier to control than non-point source pollution. So like municipal sewage, city sewage systems, manufacturers that use water, these are two types of point source solution or pollution. Like you can look at what has been deposited and you know where it comes from. On the other hand, with non-point source pollution, this occurs in larger quantities and it's really hard to control. The main source of non-point source pollution is agriculture, and that is because farmers will spray like pesticides and fertilizers on their fields in order to make their crops grow, but then those things are carried into rivers and lakes by irrigation systems or through natural runoff. And the problem with that is that it can pollute or contaminate groundwater. This is another example of non-point source pollution. And this is like a neighborhood, I guess you could call it, in Delhi, India. I'm guessing that's the Ganges River. I've seen pictures of the Ganges and it looks kind of like this, but you know, you have miles and miles of this like shanty town type housing, and waste is just deposited into the river in mass. And so there's not really a specific point because it's coming from all over the place. All right, and then solid waste pollution. So the most common form of solid waste is paper products. Some statistics: the average American produces about 4 pounds of solid waste per day. So that's all of us. That's a lot of waste. Typically, residences, so that's like housing, neighborhoods, produce about 60% of it, and then businesses account for the other 40% of solid waste. Like I said, paper products are the largest share of solid waste in the US. Manufacturers use paper products as well, but they throw away lots of metal. So there are a couple of ways to dispose of solid waste. The most common way is through the sanitary landfill. This is by far the most common way to dispose of solid waste in the United States. And so recently, a lot of the small town landfills have actually been closed down, and then they've been replaced by a smaller number of larger regional ones. So there are less landfills, but they're larger. At any rate, there's a shortage of landfills that are nearby, and so people have tried to come up with other ways to dispose of solid waste, and one of the most popular alternatives is incineration. So basically you burn your waste. The problem with burning waste is that that can release toxins into the air as well, and then you have some toxins that even after the waste is burned, it remains in the ash. And so you've kind of solved one problem in that now you don't have to use sanitary landfills, but you're releasing toxins into the air when you burn waste. So this map is showing the amount of carbon dioxide that is left in sanitary landfills throughout the country. The large red dots have the most carbon dioxide being released. So in the large red ones, there's over 300,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide. The good news is that recycling, which is a more recent trend, is decreasing the amount of per capita contribution to landfill. So that's like less waste and also less carbon dioxide because people are recycling. All right, and then lastly, looking at hazardous waste. So disposing of hazardous waste is really difficult. I mentioned a few seconds ago, manufacturing companies, they dispose of paper products, but they also dispose of a lot of heavy metals. And many times these heavy metals have things like mercury or zinc or PCB oils, strong solvents, acids, things like that. And so if poisonous materials are not put in protective containers, then the chemicals may leak into the soil and contaminate groundwater or escape into the atmosphere. So this is kind of what we were talking about with nuclear energy, that nuclear energy is great because it's non-renewable, but there's a ton of it. The problem is that we have to find a proper way to dispose of it, or it could leak radiation or something like that and contaminate the groundwater. So this is true with any type of hazardous waste, is that it has to be properly disposed of so that it doesn't pollute the air or the underground water. All right, so this is looking at hazardous waste in the US. The large red circles in this one are showing how much chemical toxic waste are being released per pound. And so you can see in a couple of spots in the US, there's 100 million or more toxic waste chemical release pounds. So that is a lot. Most of this is coming from mines in the West, but this is obviously a problem because these chemicals have to be disposed of in a way that will not harm the environment or the people living nearby. All right, that is all. I hope you have an awesome day. Don't forget to take a picture of your notes and send those to me.